Hello. Today I'm going to tell you about a case that happened in the 1990s. In less than an hour, 7 people were brutally murdered, and the motive was simply to seek thrills. According to the killer's confession, he just wanted to do something big, to seek a thrill. Due to the lack of clear witnesses and evidence, the investigation was at a standstill. So what happened that day? Next, let's rewind time back to January 8, 1993. January 8, 1993. It was a Friday. The story took place in Valentine-town, Illinois, USA, a place with a very good living environment and security. At 10:30 p.m., snow was still falling outside, and the Christmas holiday atmosphere hadn't completely disappeared. So they called the police department and reported that there was nothing unusual. Closed. Perhaps Michael is hanging out somewhere. At 1 o'clock, the police station's phone rang incessantly, a series of alarm calls reporting that family members had lost contact without prior notice. Coincidentally, all of them worked at Brown's Chicken.
The officer on duty realized something was wrong and immediately dispatched 2 more officers to investigate. Upon arrival, they found the shop closed, the lights off. Looking through the window in the streetlights, they saw the shop was clean and tidy. The chairs were arranged on the tables with no signs of anything unusual. So they went to check the back door. One of the officers pushed the door open and found it unlocked. The 2 officers exchanged glances, then drew their guns and entered the shop. The shop was completely silent. When they turned on the lights, what they saw shocked them both. There were many bloodstains on the floor. No one was there. The bloodstains on the floor extended to the door of the cold room and the freezer room at the back of the kitchen. They proceeded to open the west freezer door. 2 bodies appeared before them in horror. They quickly went to open the east freezer door and were shocked to find a pile of bodies stacked on top of each other, all shot. The scene was unforgettable for the 2 police officers.
Initially, they determined that a total of 7 people had been murdered. The cause of death was always gunshot wounds. Some were not only shot multiple times, but also stabbed multiple times. The 2 victims in the west freezer room were the 50-year-old owner of the fried chicken shop, Chat Enderfair, and a 32-year-old waiter, Thomas. Image. Therefore, the perpetrator may have used a mop to clean up the bloodstains after committing the crime. This also suggests the perpetrator had a very good mentality or was very familiar with the shop. He knew that after the shop closed, no one would come here, so he didn't rush to run away, but stayed to clean up the scene. On the roof of the store in Da Nang and the victim's shop were found with at least 20 bullets, possibly from a .38 pistol, but the origin of the gun could not be determined. There was an unusual phenomenon in the store. A chair near the counter was properly positioned, while all the other chairs were flipped upside down on the table. This flipping of the chairs was for convenience in cleaning the store.
The chair near the counter suggests that even though it was past closing time, there was still a customer eating in the store. Could this last customer be the perpetrator or someone with information? The store's business revenue in Da Nang that day was between $1,800 and $1,900 USD, but the cash box was empty. This suggests the perpetrator's goal may have been robbery, but why would they murder an innocent person? A receipt was found in the cash register of the fried chicken store, showing the time as at 9:07 p.m. on January 8th. This was the last cashier's receipt for the day. The last customer remaining ordered a fried chicken combo, 2 small sandwiches, a bag of fries, and a drink. The store had been cleaned up except for 1 trash can containing some chicken bones, fries, and various other trash like unused napkins. The police weren't sure if the trash bag was valuable in solving the case, but they collected and froze it.
After the incident, The Panasai Special Investigation Team continuously checked nearby residents and investigated all the victims' friends and relatives. They also investigated people who had previously worked at the fried chicken shop, but unfortunately, no useful clues were found. The culprit seemed to have vanished without a trace. During the investigation, the police also made a mistake. 2 weeks after the incident, they only remembered there was a gas station operating. There were 24/7 surveillance cameras near the crime scene, but unfortunately, all the images from those cameras were overwritten. The investigation team, consisting of hundreds of police officers, continued their investigation for a year, but only learned that the killer's motive was robbery. The other motives remained completely unknown. The case therefore stalled under pressure from public opinion and the inability to find a way out. The Chicago police then considered a specialist in physical evidence analysis from a club named Li Chengyu. He was a renowned Chinese-American detective known as the Contemporary Detective or Chinese Detective God.
After receiving the invitation, Dr. Lai began working on the case. On January 28, 1994, a year after the incident, Dr. Lai was invited to Philadelphia to participate in the investigation of the massacre at the Dan Bra Hout chicken restaurant. He meticulously studied numerous case files, physical evidence, and hundreds of photographs. From the photos taken at the scene, he reconstructed the crime scene. Through this reconstruction, he concluded that the scene was consistent with robbery and murder cases. The guard in the crate perfectly matched the meal purchase at 9:07 p.m. that day. He thoroughly studied the plot of land and discovered that the last customer only ate the chicken wings in the combo meal. The rest was almost untouched. Therefore, it can be affirmed that the person's purpose in coming to the store was not to eat after the last order was placed. Because the employees in the fried chicken restaurant were all murdered, the scene left no significant evidence, indicating that the perpetrator had prepared very carefully before acting, choosing the exact time when the store was closing to commit the crime.
Overall, the person who placed the last order is most likely the main suspect, according to the last receipt. The time of ordering was 9:07 p.m., while the chicken restaurant closes at 9 p.m. In the U.S., time awareness is very strong. They are very rigid about the time after work hours. Even when customers arrived, they didn't open the doors. On that particular day, despite it being past closing time and the cleaning being supposedly complete, they continued to accept orders, suggesting the customer might have been an acquaintance. The chicken shop employee violated the rules by extending working hours to serve only chicken wings in the combo meal. Dr. Lai believes the perpetrator could be Black or Hispanic. America is a multi-ethnic country, each with its own habits. White people usually prefer chicken breast, Asians prefer chicken thighs, while Black and Hispanic people prefer chicken wings.
According to the bill, the entire combo only contained one chicken wing, but the bones in the trash can indicate there were two. It's possible the employee added an extra wing, further proving the perpetrator was an acquaintance. The chicken wing bones had been chewed on at both ends, leaving behind the suspect's saliva. Dr. Lee used DNA technology, which was only just being developed at the time, to extract DNA from the chicken wing bones. In 1994, very few people knew about DNA technology. Even the police in Crystal Thai, where the crime occurred, had never heard of it and didn't know what DNA technology was. However, because DNA technology was not yet fully developed at that time, the very small amount of water extracted from the chicken bones was insufficient for analysis. Therefore, Dr. Lee suggested keeping the sample for testing until the technology was more advanced. Time passed, and the case remained unresolved until 1998, when DNA technology had made significant progress. The police successfully analyzed the suspect's DNA. However, at that time, the United States had not yet established a complete DNA database. Manually comparing DNA was a very laborious, time-consuming, and expensive task.
By then, 5 years had passed since the incident. Ultimately, they still couldn't find anyone else with matching DNA. Because new evidence kept emerging, the case remained unsolved. On March 25, 2002, 95 years after the incident, a girl named Nikane provided the police with a crucial clue. According to her, her ex-boyfriend, Nikane Goski, and a man named John Luna were the main perpetrators in the murder at the Brown Chicken restaurant. In his testimony, Nikane revealed that the day after the incident, her boyfriend called her and told her to turn on the TV. The TV was showing news about 7 people being murdered at the Braywood Fried Chicken restaurant. He seemed very proud and said that it was his doing. Not long after, Nikane and Goski boasted to her about the details of the case, but she didn't dare report it to the police because he threatened to kill her if she revealed the information. She lived in fear every day and didn't dare report it. After some time, she and Nikane broke up.
9 years after the incident, she confided the whole story to her current boyfriend, who encouraged her. She reported it to the police and eventually dared to tell everything. Initially, the police were very suspicious because since the crime occurred, they had received thousands of leads, but none were useful. However, when Hen described the process of committing the crime, she described a detail that made the police focus intensely, a detail that had never been revealed to the public. A mop stained with blood was used to clean up vomit and potato chips. According to her description, when a victim was shot, he threw up the chips he had eaten to make sure the person was dead. She also described using the mop to poke his body to avoid attracting attention. The police began secretly tracking the 2 suspects. They discovered that the suspect had previously worked at Brown's Fried Chicken restaurant and was of Spanish descent. This matched Dr. Lee's hypothesis at the time, which always avoided suspicion. There was an alibi. The police found Eileen, who had provided the alibi. Despite eating after questioning, Eileen admitted that she had lied to the investigators.
In fact, after John committed the crime, they immediately approached Eileen and paid her $50, asking her to provide alibi evidence. Furthermore, John's DNA perfectly matched the DNA collected from chicken bones 4 years prior. On May 16, 2002, police successfully apprehended the 2 suspects after hours of questioning. Finally, they confessed to the crime. Both were high school students with prior convictions for drug use and frequent animal abuse, considered troublemakers in the area. In a 44-minute confession video, she described what happened in the fried chicken shop on January 8, 1993. That night, we wanted to do something big, to seek thrills. Because I had worked at the shop for a month, I knew that the shop always closed at exactly 9 p.m. every day. There was an anti-theft alarm system, and I was also very familiar with the store's environment, so we chose that store to carry out the robbery on the night of January 8, 1993.
It was snowing heavily, and Chuan entered the store at the last minute before closing. Sure enough, there was no way around it. Inside the store, besides the owner, he had ordered a portion of fried chicken. The store staff knew him, so they not only allowed him to order after 9 p.m., but also knew he liked chicken wings, so they gave him an extra piece of fried chicken. He sat there eating chicken wings and waiting. As soon as he entered, he locked the back door of the store, put on gloves, and shot a waiter who was trying to escape after noticing something unusual. He then continued to push all the store employees into the cold room and freezer in the kitchen. What followed was a brutal massacre. According to Schwann's confession, initially they only wanted to steal money and had no other intentions, but after encountering resistance, they lost control. He claimed he acted on his own initiative to attack the entire store. However, the above story clearly doesn't match the actions at the scene because they brought a lot of spare ammunition.
After the attack, They calmly cleaned up the scene before taking the store's revenue. That purpose wasn't simply to steal money. On May 10, 2007, based on DNA evidence and the testimony of 2 close witnesses, he was convicted of 7 counts of attempted murder. However, due to a jury member's strong opposition to the death penalty, the death sentence was not passed. Ultimately, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole until September 29, 2009. Based on the testimony of his ex-girlfriend and Y. Lin, who created the alibi, he was finally convicted of attempted murder and sentenced to life imprisonment from the time the 7 victims were murdered in 1993 until the suspect was arrested in 2002. The newly convicted suspect's case dragged on for 14 years, during which time the victims' families suffered an unimaginable loss. The case also plunged the town of Palatine into a somber atmosphere. Sales at the Brown Fried Chicken chain dropped by 35%, forcing 100 restaurants in the Chicago area to close. The crime scene, after being vacant for years, was renovated into a laundromat, but due to business failure, was eventually demolished in April 2001. Currently, J Bank has been rebuilt there. In reality, many unsolved cases were simply due to technological limitations at the time, preventing immediate resolution. That doesn't mean they can never be solved. Remember, there are no perfect criminals in this world. This video ends here, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.